My husband walked into our company awards ceremony with his 23-year-old mistress, smirking at me like I was nothing. He had no idea I'd already hacked his entire digital life and was about to destroy him in front of 300 people. The footage of what happened next broke the internet. Before we dive into this absolutely insane story of revenge that's about to make your jaw drop, smash that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. I'm warning you, what happens in this story is so wild, you'll want to watch it twice. Stick around until the end because the final moment will literally leave you speechless. My name is Candice Brooks and I thought I had it all figured out. At 35, I was the head of IT security at one of the biggest tech companies in Atlanta. I had the corner office, the respect of my colleagues, and what I believed was a solid marriage to Anthony Brooks, our company's top sales director. We'd been married for 10 years, and while things weren't perfect, I never imagined he was capable of what I was about to discover. It all started on a Tuesday morning in March. I was running routine security checks on our company's email system when something caught my eye. Now, as head of IT security, I had access to everything. Every email, every login, every digital footprint our employees left behind. It was my job to keep our company safe from cyber threats, but I never expected the biggest threat to my personal life would come from within our own walls. Anonymous email patterns had changed. He was sending messages at odd hours, using company resources for what appeared to be personal communications, and worst of all, he was being sloppy about it. The man who used to lecture me about digital privacy was leaving a trail so obvious that even a junior IT person could have spotted it. But it wasn't just the emails that made my blood run cold. It was the name that kept appearing in his correspondence. Jessica Martinez, our new marketing coordinator. She was 23 years old, fresh out of college, and apparently very interested in my husband's mentorship. I spent the next 3 days digging deeper, and what I found shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage: hotel reservations made on the company credit card, conference room bookings during lunch hours when no meetings were scheduled, and security footage that showed them in compromised positions in areas they thought weren't monitored. The parking garage cameras had captured them kissing by his car. The elevator surveillance showed hands wandering where they shouldn't. Every piece of evidence felt like a knife twisting in my chest, but I kept digging because I needed to know the full extent of his betrayal. The worst part wasn't just the affair. It was how stupid they both were about it. Jessica was using her company email to send him explicit messages talking about their future together, asking when he was going to leave his boring wife for her. Anthony, meanwhile, was promising her promotions, better assignments, and even hinting at a transfer to our New York office where they could start fresh. Reading those messages felt surreal, like watching someone else's life fall apart in real time. But Anthony wasn't done humiliating me. 3 weeks after I discovered their affair, he came home with the most insulting announcement of our entire marriage. Our company's annual awards ceremony was coming up. A black tie event held at the Ritz-Carlton downtown where all 300 employees, plus executives from other companies and industry partners, would gather to celebrate the year's achievements. It was always a big deal, but this year felt different because Anthony was nominated for Salesperson of the Year, an award that came with a $50,000 bonus and a guaranteed promotion. "I'm bringing Jessica to the ceremony," he announced over dinner, not even having the decency to look me in the eye. "She's been helping me with my client presentations, and I think it would be good for her career to network with some of the industry people who will be there." The casual way he said it, like he was discussing the weather, made my hands shake with rage, but what came next was even worse. "I know this might be awkward for you, but try to be professional about it. We're all adults here, and I don't want any drama at a work event." Drama. He was worried about me causing drama while he planned to parade his mistress around in front of our colleagues, friends, and my professional network. The sheer audacity of it took my breath away. But instead of screaming, crying, or throwing things like he probably expected, I just smiled and nodded. "Of course," I said sweetly. "I understand completely. You have to do what's best for the company." That night, while Anthony slept peacefully next to me, probably dreaming about his big night with Jessica, I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. I wasn't going to quietly endure his humiliation or beg him to reconsider. Instead, I was going to use every skill, every connection, and every piece of access I had to make sure Anthony got exactly what he deserved. You see, Anthony had forgotten something crucial about his wife. I wasn't just any IT professional. I was a person who knew every secret, every vulnerability, and every digital skeleton in our company's closet. More importantly, I was the person everyone trusted. In 10 years at the company, I'd never leaked information, never abused my access, and never used my position for personal gain. My reputation was spotless, and that was about to become Anon's biggest nightmare. Over the next 2 weeks, I conducted my own private investigation into my husband's professional life. And what I found made his personal betrayal look like child's play. Anthony hadn't just been cheating on me. He'd been cheating the company out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. His sales reports were completely fabricated. Those record-breaking numbers that had earned him his nomination. They were based on contracts he'd stolen from other salespeople, deals he claimed credit for but never actually closed, and phantom clients that existed only on paper. But it got worse. Anthony had been running expense account fraud for over 2 years, billing the company for fake business trips, inflated client dinners, and equipment that never existed. He'd also been taking kickbacks from vendors, steering contracts to companies that paid him under the table in exchange for preferential treatment. The man who acted like such a dedicated employee was actually a master manipulator who'd been systematically stealing from the company that had given him everything. The evidence was overwhelming. And more importantly, it was all digital. Every fake invoice, every altered report, every fraudulent expense claim was sitting in our servers, just waiting for someone with the right access and knowledge to connect the dots. And lucky for justice, I had both. I also had allies. LaToya Williams, our HR director, had been my best friend since college. She'd noticed the way Anthony treated me at office events. The subtle put-downs and dismissive comments he thought no one else caught. When I showed her what I discovered, she didn't just believe me, she was ready to help. Miranda Thompson, the CEO's assistant, had also seen enough of Anon's arrogance over the years to know he wasn't the golden boy everyone thought he was. These women understood what it meant to be underestimated in corporate America, and they were ready to make sure Anthony faced the consequences of his actions. The night of the awards ceremony arrived faster than I expected. I spent extra time getting ready, choosing a stunning black dress that made me feel powerful and confident. Anthony barely looked at me as we got dressed, too busy texting Jessica to coordinate their evening. He told her to meet him at the hotel bar before the ceremony, thinking I wouldn't notice or wouldn't care. What he didn't know was that I'd already confirmed their plans through the security cameras I'd strategically repositioned to monitor the hotel's public areas. The Ritz-Carlton ballroom looked magnificent that night. Crystal chandeliers cast elegant shadows over the 300 guests, all dressed in their finest attire and ready to celebrate another successful year. I watched Anthony work the room, shaking hands with executives, laughing at jokes that weren't funny, and playing the part of the devoted company man. He looked so confident, so sure that this was going to be his night of triumph. If only he knew what was coming. Jessica arrived exactly when I expected her to, looking nervous, but excited in a red dress that was just a little too tight and a little too revealing for a corporate event. She was beautiful. I'll give her that. But she was also young and naive enough to think that sleeping with a married man was going to advance her career. The way she looked at Anthony with such adoration made me almost feel sorry for her. Almost. The ceremony began with the usual corporate speeches about teamwork, innovation, and company values. I sat at our assigned table, making polite conversation with colleagues while keeping one eye on Anthony and Jessica, who were seated 3 tables away. They thought they were being discreet, but their stolen glances and secret smiles were obvious to anyone paying attention. Several people had already started whispering, and I could see the confusion and concern on faces around the room. As the evening progressed, Anthony grew more confident and more reckless. During the networking breaks, he was practically holding Jessica's hand, introducing her to important clients as his special project. The disrespect was breathtaking, but I maintained my composure. I'd learned long ago that the most powerful moves happen when your opponent underestimates you completely. The technical awards came first. Recognition for our IT security improvements, which earned me a standing ovation and a moment of pride despite everything else happening. Then came the marketing awards, the customer service recognition, and finally the sales categories. Anthony straightened his tie and adjusted his cuff links as they announced the Salesperson of the Year nominees. His name was called third, and he stood up with a broad smile, waving to the crowd like he'd already won. But instead of announcing the winner immediately, our CEO decided to showcase each nominee's achievements with a presentation on the big screens positioned around the ballroom. This was where LaToya, Miranda, and I had worked our magic. What appeared to be a celebration of Anonis' record-breaking year quickly became something very different. The first slide showed Anonis' reported sales figures, impressive numbers that had earned him recognition and respect throughout the company. But then the next slide appeared, showing the actual client contracts and payments received. The numbers didn't match. Not even close. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd as people tried to understand what they were seeing. Then came the real evidence. Email screenshots showing Anthony claiming credit for deals that other salespeople had closed. Financial records proving that several of his biggest clients had never actually signed contracts or made payments. Security footage timestamps showing him in the office after hours, accessing other people's accounts, and changing records in the system. The ballroom fell completely silent except for the soft clicking of the presentation. Advancing to the next slide. This one showed Anonis expense reports side by side with actual receipts and transaction records. Fake business trips to cities he'd never visited. Restaurant bills for dinners that happened on days he was provably somewhere else. Hotel stays charged to the company during weekends when he claimed to be working from home. But the final slide was the masterpiece. It showed a detailed financial analysis of Anonis theft, complete with dates, amounts, and legal implications. The total came to over $200,000 in fraudulent expenses, stolen commissions, and embezzled funds. At the bottom of the slide, in bold red letters were the words, "Evidence compiled by IT Security and submitted to FBI Financial Crimes Division. Case number 2024 FCFC 8847. The silence in that ballroom was deafening. 300 people sat frozen, trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Anonis' face had gone completely white, his confident smile replaced by an expression of pure terror. Jessica looked confused and horrified, finally understanding that she'd attached herself to a criminal rather than a rising star. Our CEO stood up slowly and walked to the microphone. His voice was steady but cold as he announced that Anthony Brooks was terminated immediately, effective that moment, and that criminal charges had already been filed with federal authorities. As if on cue, 2 FBI agents who'd been waiting in the hotel lobby walked into the ballroom and approached Anonis' table. The next few minutes felt like a movie. Anthony tried to run, actually tried to push past people, and head for the exit, but hotel security was already positioned at every door. The FBI agents calmly read him his rights while 300 of his colleagues, clients, and industry partners watched in stunned silence. Jessica was crying hysterically, begging someone to explain what was happening until LaToya approached her with termination papers for violating company policy regarding relationships with supervisors and complicity in fraudulent activities. As they led Anthony away in handcuffs, he finally looked at me. For the first time that evening, for the first time in months, he really saw me. The recognition in his eyes was devastating. He finally understood that his quiet, boring wife had orchestrated his complete professional and personal destruction. But instead of anger or hatred, all I felt was a profound sense of justice finally being served. The aftermath was swift and merciless. Anonis' arrest made the local news, then the industry publications, and eventually went viral on social media when someone leaked security footage of his attempted escape from the ballroom. His professional reputation was destroyed overnight, and the criminal charges meant he was facing serious prison time. Jessica's career in marketing was over before it really began, and their relationship crumbled under the weight of legal proceedings and public embarrassment. For me, the consequences were entirely different. Our CEO publicly praised my investigative work and commitment to corporate integrity. The board of directors offered me a promotion to Chief Technology Officer along with a substantial salary increase and stock options. More importantly, I gained something I hadn't realized I'd lost: respect for myself and confidence in my own worth. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly straightforward. With federal charges pending, and overwhelming evidence of his fraud, Anthony was in no position to fight for anything. I kept the house, the savings, and most importantly, my dignity. His legal bills and restitution payments meant he'd be financially devastated for years to come. Assuming he didn't end up in federal prison. 6 months later, I was promoted again. This time to Vice President of Technology and Security. I'd become something of a legend in our industry. She became known as the woman who brought down one of the most sophisticated corporate fraud schemes anyone had ever seen. Soon after, speaking invitations started pouring in. Conferences, universities, and industry events all wanted to hear her story about cybersecurity, corporate integrity, and why thorough internal investigations matter more than most companies realize. But the real victory wasn't professional. It was personal. Through everything that happened, she discovered something powerful about herself. She realized she was stronger, smarter, and more capable than she had ever believed. For years, Anthony had made her feel small, like she was insignificant and lucky just to have him. His betrayal cut deeper than words could describe. But when he tried to publicly humiliate her, it triggered something completely different. It awakened a fierce, unbreakable strength inside her. And let's be honest, Candace didn't just get revenge. She served it on a silver platter, with a side of criminal charges. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, go ahead and smash that like button and share this video with someone who would love this story too. And I'm curious, drop a comment below. Would you have had the patience to plan everything the way Candace did, or would you have confronted him immediately? Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because stories this wild don't come around every day. And until next time, remember one thing.